I'm Dan, and this is Dan Explains. For the last century or so, there's been the idea floating around that the Catholic Church tried to stop science from advancing. People like to point to the persecution of Galileo and his work as an example, yet many scientists and scholars were Catholic. Some were even Catholic clergy, and the institutions of learning that most people learned at for hundreds of years were supported by the Catholic Church. So, what's the real story? Let me explain. Many armchair atheistic apologists like to point the finger at the Catholic Church for obstructing science, especially during the period known as the Great Enlightenment. They like to cherry-pick the trial of Galileo as an example, who I'll get back to in a couple of minutes. Although the Church has definitely opposed some ideas that eventually turned out to be true, for the most part, the story is quite different. After the fall of the Roman Empire, while Europe descended into the Dark Ages, much of their knowledge was preserved by the Catholic Church, which, by the way, included what most would consider the Orthodox churches today, since the Dark Ages were over by the time of the East-West Schism. So, they were a part of the Catholic Church up to that point. So instead of causing the Dark Ages, the Catholic Church preserved the texts of the philosophers and many others by transcribing them and protecting them. All the while, literacy rates throughout Europe declined to next to nothing. It was so bad, oftentimes, kings would need Catholic priests to read and write their decrees, because they were illiterate and couldn't do it themselves. The university system we have today, which, although it's becoming more of a moot point, educated and created the scientists that built the foundations of modern science, was primarily supported by the Catholic Church. Additionally, many of these scientists, up to even till the modern times, were actually Catholic clergy. Probably the two most famous examples would be Gregor Mendel, who was a Catholic monk that basically discovered genetics with his experiments on peas, and Father George Lemaitre, who proposed the Big Bang Theory, which almost all modern cosmologists accept today, in spite of the fact that the theory is criticized by many biblical literalists. As for Galileo, people like to point out that it was his belief in the heliocentric model of the solar system that put the sun at the center of the solar system and not the Earth that got him in trouble with the Catholic Church in the 1600s. But that's not totally accurate. Galileo wasn't even the first person to propose the idea that the sun was at the center of the solar system. A century earlier, Copernicus proposed the heliocentric model, and even presented it to Pope Clement VII. The Pope was favorable to Copernican heliocentrism. In fact, most of the criticism he got from his theory from religious groups was from, at the time, new Protestant reformers. Copernicus and Galileo were also both educated in the university system, which was supported by the Catholic Church. And they were both Catholic. Where Galileo ran into trouble wasn't with the idea itself. His ideas were actually initially received with approval by the Church. However, when questions arose, Galileo defended his ideas with theological arguments, based on his own interpretations of Scripture. The Protestant Reformation, that was caused by people personally interpreting Scripture, was still a fresh open wound. So his arguments were not received well. This is what mainly got Galileo into trouble with the Church. After that, the Church started to nitpick Galileo's version of heliocentrism, even though they had condoned the theory for a century, and even used it to help build the Gregorian calendar we have today, which was instituted by the Church in the late 1500s, using calculations based on Copernicus's heliocentric model. Time would prove Galileo correct, so the Church theologians certainly have been correct on everything, or they wouldn't disagree with each other. But that doesn't negate the fact that the Catholic Church wasn't opposed to the scientific method. In fact, they helped create it. Thank you for watching. If you like this video and other topics ranging from theology to science, please press the like button. Subscribe to my channel and ding the bell to get notified when I post new videos. Also, please support me on Patreon to get extra content and special perks. Link in the description. The more people support me, the more time I can dedicate to making videos like this one. So, until next time, have a great week.